It started as an ordinary Saturday morning. I was loading my kids into the car, ready to drive them to their weekend soccer practice. The sun was shining, and for once, everything felt calm. My father and stepmom had asked to borrow my car the night before, saying theirs was in the shop. I didn't think much of it, after all, they were family. But I didn't know that decision would change everything I felt about them. As I buckled my youngest into his car seat, I noticed something odd. The trunk felt unusually heavy when I closed it. I shrugged it off at first, thinking maybe they had left some groceries or tools inside. We started driving, the kids laughing and singing along to the radio, completely unaware of what was sitting just a few feet behind them. But as I took a sharp turn, a strange clinking sound came from the back. It wasn't groceries. It wasn't tools. It sounded metallic, muffled, and wrong. Something in my gut told me to pull over. I parked on the side of the road and went to check. When I opened the trunk, my heart nearly stopped. Hidden under a blanket were several tightly sealed packages wrapped in black tape. My first thought was panic. I didn't want to believe what I was seeing, but deep down, I knew this wasn't normal. I had seen enough news stories to recognize what it could be. My hands trembled as I closed the trunk again, not wanting my kids to see. My entire body went cold. I didn't call my parents right away. I didn't even drive home. I took the kids straight to a friend's house and asked her to watch them for a bit. Then I drove to the police station. The whole way there, my heart pounded so loudly I could barely think. I kept replaying every moment of the last 24 hours, every odd thing my father had said, every awkward pause from my stepmom. They had used my car. They had put something illegal inside it. And they hadn't cared that my children would be riding in it the next day. When I arrived at the police station, I told the officer everything. They asked me to pop the trunk, and within minutes, the air was filled with tension. Officers surrounded the car, speaking into their radios, while I stood there numb, clutching my shaking hands together. They confirmed what I had feared. It was illegal substances, carefully packaged and hidden. My car was impounded for investigation. I had to give a full statement, explain how my parents had borrowed the car, and prove that I had no idea what they'd done. The officers believed me, but their words hit hard. If I had been pulled over that morning, with my kids in the car, I could have been arrested. My children could have been taken away. That realization shattered me. The people I trusted most had put my family at risk. For what? Money, greed, stupidity. When I called my father, he didn't even sound surprised. He told me to calm down, that it was just temporary, and that I shouldn't have gone to the cops. His voice was so casual it made my blood boil. My stepmom tried to cover for him, saying I was overreacting and making things worse. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. There was no apology, no guilt, just annoyance that I had exposed them. That night, after the kids went to bed, I sat alone in the dark, staring at my phone. I had a choice: pretend it didn't happen, protect them like I always had, or finally protect myself and my children instead. I chose the second. The next morning, I called them both and told them not to come near me or my family ever again. My father tried to guilt-trip me, saying, family doesn't turn on family. But I reminded him that family doesn't endanger each other's children. Family doesn't hide crimes in your car. Family doesn't lie and expect silence. It's been months since that day, but the memory still makes my stomach twist. My kids don't know the details, they just know we don't see grandpa and grandma anymore. Sometimes my youngest asks about them, and I change the subject. I wish I could explain without breaking his innocence. I wish I could go back and see the warning signs earlier, the late night calls, the sudden money they always had, the secrecy. But I can't. Now, I drive that same car, cleaned and inspected by the police, and every time I glance in the rearview mirror, I'm reminded of how close we came to disaster. That trunk once carried something that could have destroyed my life, and my parents put it there without a second thought. I'll never understand how they justified it, how they could look at my children and still make that choice. But I do know this: I'll never let them have another chance. After the police confirmed what was hidden in my car, everything in my life changed. My father and stepmother were questioned, and though they tried to shift the blame, the evidence was clear. Their fingerprints were on the packages, and they couldn't deny borrowing my car. But the moment the truth came out, they started calling, begging, and crying, trying to twist the story like they always did. They said I had ruined the family's name, that I should have handled it quietly. They didn't see what they'd done as betrayal, they saw my honesty as disloyalty. For days, I ignored their calls, but one evening, my father showed up outside my house. His face looked older, tired, but his voice carried the same authority he used when I was a child. He said they had made a mistake, that they were desperate for money, and that I should understand. He claimed they never meant to involve me or the kids. I wanted to scream at him for even saying that. I reminded him that the packages were in my car, behind my children. If the police had stopped us that morning, my kids would have seen their mother taken away in handcuffs. He lowered his eyes, but his silence told me everything. He wasn't sorry for what he did. He was sorry he got caught. My stepmom came to the door the next day with tears in her eyes and a trembling voice. She brought gifts for the kids, their favorite snacks and little toys, hoping that would soften me. But I stood firm. I told her she wasn't welcome here. She begged me to forgive them, said my father wasn't thinking straight, that he was under pressure. She even said, "You don't want to grow old without your parents, do you?" That line hit me like a punch. It was the same emotional manipulation I'd grown up with, the same guilt they used to control me for years. That night, after they left, I sat in my kitchen with a cold cup of coffee, trying to process everything. The house was quiet except for the faint sound of my kids laughing in their room. I realized I had a choice to make, not between forgiveness and revenge, but between peace and chaos. I could let them back in, knowing they'd never truly change, or I could walk away and protect my children from their recklessness forever. My decision was made. I started the process of cutting them out completely. I changed my phone number, blocked them on every social media account, and told the school not to release any information about the kids to anyone but me. I even filed a restraining order after my father tried to come by again, shouting from the front yard that family doesn't turn on family. But it wasn't me who turned. It was them. They had crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. The hardest part was explaining it to my children. They were too young to understand the danger but old enough to notice the distance. My oldest asked why Grandpa wasn't coming for his birthday, and I told him, sometimes people we love make choices that aren't safe for us. We can love them from far away. He nodded, though I could see confusion in his eyes. I hated that my parents' mistakes had forced me to have that conversation so early. Months passed, and slowly the tension began to fade. I found a new rhythm for our small family, morning routines, soccer games, movie nights. But every so often, a letter would arrive in the mail, unsigned but obviously from them. Words of apology mixed with excuses. "We only did what we had to do. We were protecting you. You'll understand one day." I never replied. I threw each one away. Some nights I'd sit in my car and think about the past, the holidays, the laughter, the memories that now felt tainted. I wondered if they ever felt the weight of what they'd done, or if they convinced themselves I was the villain for exposing them. Then one day, I got a call from a detective. My father and stepmother had been arrested again, this time caught with an even larger shipment of illegal substances. My heart sank, not out of sympathy, but out of grief for what could have been. They had chosen this path long before that day they borrowed my car. I realized then that no amount of love could fix people who didn't want to be fixed. That night, I looked out the window at the dark sky and whispered a quiet goodbye. Not to their faces, but to the idea of the parents I thought I had. The ones who were supposed to protect me, guide me, and stand by me. They were gone long before the police ever got involved. What remained were strangers wearing familiar faces. In the months that followed, I focused on rebuilding the peace they had almost destroyed. I took my kids on road trips, taught them about honesty and courage, and promised myself I'd never let lies enter our home again. Trust had become a fragile thing for me, but I was learning to trust myself again, to believe that cutting them off wasn't cruelty, it was survival. Sometimes at night, when the house is quiet, I still think about my father's voice, the way he said my name, the way he made me feel like a child again, powerless and small. But then I look at my children sleeping peacefully, safe under the roof I built without his help, and I know I made the right choice.